Happy New Year, y'all. Hope you are rested and ready after your holiday season because 2024 is coming in hot with a great episode of Cyberwork. Adrianna Iadarola of CyberSN joins me today to break down every single spot on the cybersecurity job search, hiring, upskilling, and retention pipeline. After her raucous and highly informative presentation at ISACA Digital Trust World in 2023, I knew I had to introduce you to this great analyst and thinker. Whether you're doing the hiring or being the hiree, you will find something crucial to your New Year's journey. And that's all today on Cyberwork. Welcome to this week's episode of the Cyberwork with Infosec podcast. Each week we talk with a different industry thought leader about cybersecurity trends, the way those trends affect the work of Infosec professionals, while offering tips for breaking in or moving up the ladder in the cybersecurity industry. My guest today, Adrianna Iadarola, is a seasoned cybersecurity professional and business leader with over 15 years of experience in the industry. As the managing director of CyberSN, a leading cybersecurity staffing and recruitment firm, Adrianna is responsible for overseeing the company's day-to-day operations, strategic planning, and business development initiatives. Throughout her career, Adrianna has established herself as a respected thought leader and expert in the field of cybersecurity. Prior to joining CyberSN, Adrianna held a variety of senior leadership roles in the IT and cybersecurity industry. She is also a passionate advocate for diversity and inclusion in the cybersecurity industry, which lines up with us too. She is an ambassador for Secure Diversity, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering and supporting women in cybersecurity. Adrianna holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Adrianna, welcome today. Thanks for joining me, and welcome to Cyberwork.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris. It's great.
So just as a bit of background for our listeners, this is another person that I met at the ISACA Digital Trust World this year in Boston, and we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that Adrianna talked about in her presentation, which was around getting to the core truths about some of the skills gap and hiring gaps in cybersecurity right now. So before we start that, to help our listeners get to know you, I want to learn about your background and your work to date. So your career history has a lot of client services and solutions engineer roles, both of which I guess suggest sort of a problem solving and client facing skills and responsibilities. So can you tell our listeners how you came to CyberSN from there and how these previous roles informed your current responsibilities and your areas of expertise?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been in technology solution sales my entire career since I graduated. I graduated actually with a degree in speech therapy and audiology. So technology science has always been something that was my interest. Mm-hmm. After I pursued that, I graduated and I felt that it was time for me to see if I could just dive into the workforce. I started working with a recruiter who actually brought me into an opportunity for a telecommunications company. So I started off in sales solutions and telecom, as well as services and hardware. So it really, started my career off in the sense of here's technology, here's sales, here's you can build relationships, get to know people. And it just went from there. I developed a phenomenal, passion and appreciation for recruiters in the sense where if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So
they were your golden ticket, as it were.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had worked with one individual and, he placed me at my second position. And when I was looking at it, I'm like, you know what? I think I could do what you do. I think benefiting and working with individuals, supporting them and growing their career, being able to give back and do it for work is something that I was passionate about. So then I moved into recruiting, all within technology. That's developed my landscape. And then I was exposed to working security roles, and my team was a little hesitant to pick those up and work with clients because they truly didn't get the understanding. And so I was one in my group where I was like, hey, you know what? This seems like a hard little niche, but it also seems like I could definitely do very well in it. So I started focusing in that in my last opportunity before joining CyberSN. And I started gathering, kind of common people in the industry. And then I met Deidre Diamond. And right from there, she had just started CyberSN and she had just started Secure Diversity, and being another woman in the industry, understanding of technology, understanding of cybersecurity, having a network, that's kind of what exposed me to joining CyberSN 8.5 years ago. So since then, I've, held multiple roles within the company. I have been the right hand to Deidre for a very long time when it comes to, client-driven stuff and really focusing in that area. And that's kind of where things have led me to be here, which I'm the leader of client services, meaning I handle everything. I support in marketing, I support in sales, I have services, just being involved. I support within our not-for-profit. I support within, going out and doing speaking engagements like how I met you, really just being a face for the company and building out solutions for anything that a security team may need. As well as just, making introductions for professionals to one another outside of even work, just building relationships. I run the Cyber Breakfast Club for Boston, as well as the Cyber Breakfast Club for New York. There's definitely a lot that I do to give back to the community.
So when you saw this other sort of life for yourself in terms of recruiters and recruitment and so forth, this was obviously a little bit out of what you were doing at the time. Can you walk me through what like the sort of ramp up of skills required you to make the sort of jump from one? Did you feel like a fish in water? Like it was just like, oh, this is perfectly natural for me? Did you have to sort of change your skill sets very quickly to get into this other space?
To be honest with you, it was really the client base. I was dealing with CISOs, I was dealing with CEOs, CIOs, sense of selling them solutions and services. So my client base was relatively similar. So what ended up happening is understanding, infrastructure and technology and, selling rack space. Like I got the understanding of needing to secure these facilities, needing to secure these products and solutions. And so when my mindset got there, and then all of a sudden, being exposed to cybersecurity from, a product and services side in my beginning, and then moving into recruiting, it was just still working with people. It was still building solutions. It was still collaborating. I just developed a better and stronger understanding of working with individuals and making tough decisions, right? Moving to new opportunities, leaving opportunities. So the skill set definitely was an adjustment. However, the environment I feel like I worked in was similar. So it made it an easy transition, but an exciting one, because I got to really kind of gauge and get to understand what, happens when somebody's looking for a new opportunity. I've gotten to be a part of, a lot of success stories and, impacting families and impacting careers and developing and helping to support people find one another. And so it was easy for me to sit there and learn it because I was passionate.
That's awesome. So thank you for that. Yeah. So as I briefly mentioned at the top of the show, Adrianna, we met at this year's Digital Trust World. For our listeners, I'll say that you had far and away the most animated and audience interactive session I'd seen during the entire thing. So from the very start, you encouraged the audience to throw out questions while you spoke. There was no wait till the end. It was just if you have an idea, throw it out. And they most certainly did. What drew me to want to talk with you more was both the way you seamlessly integrated audience feedback in the moment in discussion, but also the whole presentation, which seemed to be built around the idea of puncturing the most pernicious and easily spread myths around hiring and the skills gap in cybersecurity. So, I've hosted cyberwork for about 5 years and change now, and the skills gap was a topic right from the very beginning. So it's not that much different now, but stock responses to the idea have evolved, but the core problem remains is that we have we have a skills gap, and nobody seems to know how to even address it, let alone make up the difference. So to get things started, Adrianna, can you talk about how the cybersecurity job landscape has changed over the past 5+ years? Because in our pre-show discussion, you said it hasn't changed much, but also it has. So can you tell me more?
Correct. Skills gap has always been something that is going to be common and continue to be common and really can't be solved. If you truly stop and think about it. So cybersecurity has been something that was a little bit new. So 5 years ago and, moving into this, it's when I first started, cybersecurity was, I guess, not something new to tech, but it was newer to organizations, right? So it was sexy, it was exciting. People really wanted to be involved in it. And, that was something where it's like, I've watched it evolve where, hey, we're in cyber, not too many people know about it. So without that awareness is the gap, right? So unless you're in the industry and unless it's kind of out and being socialized, people aren't really being aware of it. So the awareness started to develop. So people started to get excited. Students started to develop programs. Colleges started offering more. And so we started to see a big push of professionals that were going to school. However, we started to also see technology and companies start to advance quickly. And what ended up happening is that the professionals that were in the industry when I first started were all really working, right? So what ended up happening was companies realized that they needed these things. They realized that there was actually threat out there. They realized that the government started to create expectations that, there was definitely things that needed to be aligned with. So what ended up happening was we just didn't have enough professionals to fill those roles yet, right? So I feel like that gap has decreased a little bit over those past 5 years. And then what happens is technology evolves. Yeah. And if individuals don't have the experience or the ability or just the opportunity to advance those skills, what ends up happening is we have another gap. So not only is security, already been, made aware, people understand the technologies, they understand the industry, it's growing and it's growing rapid. So when I started, it was like everything was security product companies. I mean, there was a new one opening up every single day. Oh, yeah. And this company offered the new latest and greatest and companies were buying it. But what ended up happening was there was no one in the technology field that could actually work on it, right? So just because you have a product or a platform, there still needs to be a professional there to support it. And if it's brand new, no one's got the experience. So it was always something that was happening and making sure that individuals continuously had that growth, continuously are doing trainings, advancement, development. And technology, as fast as it moves, I feel like is always going to be that, lag behind of the amount of professionals that have the opportunity to gain the skills needed in order to continue with that gap.
Yeah. I have a whole list of, like I said, the sort of things that people say, but it doesn't ever really lead to anything. And one of the ones that I hadn't thought of until you just said that is, we talk about the stat of like, every, 6 months after you learn certain cybersecurity skills, half of those skills have been made redundant or, unusable by the fact that the technology is speeding up. And we always kind of say it in this way of like, haha, it's not funny. Well, you better keep up, LOL, So, but yeah, that's worth slowing down and picking up. Yes, the things that you think you're going to learn that are going to future-proof your skill set are going to be, useless in 6 months, or if not useless, at least antiquated. And we say that as just kind of like, well, keep up the speed, but not everyone can make up the speed, like you said, and not everyone has the wherewithal to stay on top of that while also doing their job, while also maybe caring for a family or a parent or whatever.
It's just the ability, right? There's so much, and that's like the key to life right now is like, how fast can everyone move, right? And what's ended up happening is it creates it like, we need that time to catch up. And so that skill gap and just the gap in general, right, is never going to narrow unless we take that step back to say, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's make sure that, but it's never going to happen because it's money out there. It's investors, it's ideas, it's excitement, it's passion. And you have to respect that too. So I guess the multiple things we can do is make sure that we're continuing to offer all of these avenues for students, diversity, everyone to get into the education, create knowledge base, get people into great programs, develop them, and then give them opportunities when they come out of school. Give them all of those, entry-level students, train them, get them out there, right? I'm sure there is professionals that are just graduating that could build massive startups just given the opportunity, right? These skill sets that are just unlike any other. And all they need is just someone to say, let me take you on.
Yeah.
So I think that with us, it's really just giving back. I know we're all busy. I know it's very hard to, get a lot out of a little, right? In the sense of we're pretty slim when it comes to different teams and security teams. Senior leaders don't have the time to develop and grow. Junior staff right now, they're being overworked, right? So I get it. But that is where the solution is right there. So we need to just make some adjustments.
Yeah. So one thing we discussed last week in preparing for this episode is that while the work landscape may have changed, the HR and hiring manager red tape has not changed. So, we talk about the speed of skills acquisitions, but, to start with, let's run through some of the common truisms around skills gap conversation with regards to HR hiring. So, we always talk about, some of the issues are more pernicious, like the well-discussed trope of the hiring manager who asks for 5 years experience on a tool or process that's only been around for 3 years. But I get the sense that there's a more systemic set of issues at play here, according to some of your nuanced discussion. So can you talk about the sort of friction between hiring and what a team actually needs?
Exactly. And I mean, there's definitely many faults in it, right? So there is no right, wrong. There's no one finger to be pointed. Human resources, some of them can be the biggest advocates for me, right? Working with internal teams. We've created solutions here at CyberSN that directly support, providing matches to internal recruiters just because we're helping to give them the education, to give them the understanding to have access to talent. So leveraging them has definitely been something that we've really strived to support, right? In cyber. And with that being said, the gap has been there in the sense of just crappy job descriptions, right? And crappy for many reasons. Could be a hiring manager wanting too much out of one person. It could be because of budget reasons, could be because of inexperience in hiring, not enough, market knowledge. Then we have human resources who might be the ones that actually create the job description or pull it from the web and just kind of copy it, where we all know not two security engineers at two different companies do the same exact things, right? It's just not common and it never happens, right? So in technology, a back-end developer at one company can do a different back-end technology development at another, and it can be pretty similar, right? The code's code, the product that you're developing might be different. However, in cybersecurity, there's so many different avenues. As a security engineer or analyst, there's different products, technologies, industries, regulations. I mean, you name it. So what ends up happening is when you pull a generic security engineering, job description off the web, because you don't either have the education to create your own, the knowledge of what is actually out there, or the specifics of the technologies you're looking for somebody. So say, someone comes in and they're like, I need somebody with AI security experience. And then HR says, well, this is a senior level role. We're going to put them in this band. This band states that they need to have 5 years experience. There's a gap there.
Yeah.
AI security is just started, right? Almost got experience. However, human resources has, this is exactly where this band lays. Based on the amount we have to pay the person, based on, what level you want to bring them in at. So then by our regulations and standards of how we run our, payments and all of that, we have to say they need 10 years experience. So the compliance and just internal kind of parameters, cybersecurity hiring does not fit in there. And no matter how many times human resources tries to put that round, peg in a square hole or what have you, it just does not work. And so there's many different avenues that affects this. And that's exactly what, we did at CyberSN in creating our platform, is making sure that this is a taxonomy. The language is common. Individuals go in, it's checkbox. It's like a Chinese menu is specific how Adrian created it. You check things off, right? And it's tasks and projects, and both the hiring managers do it, the candidates, and then they find one another. And this is where, job descriptions, it's all based off of the skills.
Yeah.
So a security engineer with this skill set can make 30 grand more than a security engineer with that skill set, just because of the specific technologies they're in, the amount of time that maybe they're spending within different environments.
Mm-hmm.
It's just no rhyme or reason. And you need to have the knowledge, or you need to do the research
Yes.
prior to filling any role, or else you're not going to have a good experience.
Could you tease out a little more about the one specific thing that stood out to me is when HR comes up with, we need someone versed in AI security, but then there's also the assumption that this is going to be an executive level position, therefore they need 5 years. But like, why does AI security need to be an executive level position as well? Like, is there an issue in terms of like,
Salary.
salary based, but also it seems like there's almost like an allergy to giving a person a lower job title with a higher salary because maybe it sets precedent, or or what have you. But again, this is the thing that always worries me about this, and everyone hand waves me away. But like, if everything is an executive level position for the top, the top intellectuals in the industry, like, there should be some bricklayer job, security style bricklayer jobs where you're just at the main level doing the thing for a while, and then maybe you become a master mason, then you become a master, maybe you build your own, become an architect, whatever. But is that an issue as well? Is there, because it seems like, it's like the movie industry, everything costs 280 billion or $50,000, and it seems like everything either has to be like a C-suite level position or an unpaid internship. Is there like, is this part of it as well, that we're,
Yes,
because people are trying to get more out of less, they're trying to like stuff too many roles into one uber position?
exactly. So
Okay.
what you definitely see is you see that based on budget, right? So organizations might have a specific amount of budget that's allocated for a role. However, a hiring manager or CISO might have 6 different opportunities that they need support on, meaning like they've got a project within infrastructure, they have a project within cloud, they have a project in application security. So it's like, okay, let me get a cloud security professional that has, solid infrastructure background that can also work, in secure applications in the cloud. And those are just 3 different profiles. So what they think is they stick a senior role or a senior title on it, and hey, we're going to be able to get somebody that's got this at a principal level because they've got enough years. That's not necessarily true, right? Just because they've dabbled in all of those areas, if they've only done it 2 years, then haven't been in it for 5, what's that do? That makes it so they're irrelevant, right? Things don't always stay the same, right? So we just talked about that. We have to, by the time we're done taking a course, things within that industry standard or whatever have already changed. So what ends up happening is you go into, and they're trying to stuff as many roles into one. So then they put that senior leadership title there. And in addition, they're also looking at the salary band gap, where human resources has to be compliant. There's a lot of federal regulations around equal pay employment, people at certain levels, and there's a lot of things. So they try to work around it to pay the professional what they want. And the only way they can do that is because they're regulated to say, if someone's making from this band to this band, they have to be considered this level at this company.
Got it.
And that's how they do the equal employment, right? So with that being said, that bridges a huge gap to say this is an individual contributor. Now we're giving them a senior title, but they're supposed to be at this level, but we need to pay them here. So there's just no kind of rhyme or reason around it. It's very concerning because you can't stick a security professional in that standard pipeline. Like, we do a lot of retention as a service stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we go into companies, and the biggest thing that we look at is how they allocate, right? So they align it on like almost like how their IT organization is built. So they have the entry level, they have like the engineers, the senior engineers, the principal engineers, right? Even though a principal engineer pay would be X amount. Say you get a specialized principal engineer, they might be $30,000 more. So now we have an issue trying to pay that person. So, I mean, it's what ends up happening is we have to remove trying to place them under this like specific org structure, specific org chart of paying, and really focus on saying, well, we have one for IT. Why can't we create one for security too? Why are we're trying to force them together and it does not work?
Yeah.
And even though we might rename the titles, we keep the bands the same. And it's just not relevant.
Yeah. I feel like I almost have 6 more questions to follow up on that, but I can't quite formulate them. So maybe we'll circle back to it a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, since your job entails working directly with companies that, obviously if they're hiring you, they're trying to sort of change this paradigm. So you clearly have the ear of people who are willing to be proactive in finding solutions to all these problems that you just put out here. So what are some signs or questions that they ask of you that indicate that they're interested in making real changes to the ways they solicit candidates and structure, teams and things like that? Are there any of their common conceptions around what needs to be done that you need to talk them out of as well?
There's always the conception when they give me a job description and say, this is what I want, this is how much I want to pay. Great. That's not always the case. When I go in, I'm going to go in and I'm going to build a solution around what exactly are your needs. So I say, I know what you're looking to try to hire, but let me start from scratch. What's the end goal, right? What are you looking to do here? Right? What is the projects you have working? What's the 1-year mark look like? The 2-year mark look like? What's, really the level of like understanding and buy-in you get from either your CEO, CIO, or your board? What does that all look like? Right? So there could be a respectable level where they actually look at cybersecurity as a huge initiative for themselves, right? So they're open to being flexible with compensation. They're open to being flexible. So I have a lot of clients that respect it, understand it, and have a supportive team and board that also do. And when I walk into something like that, it's more collaborative. It's like, let's get the best professional for what we need. Of course, we have a budget we have to stick in, but what exactly can I get for how much I want to spend? And that's kind of where we're at, right? So a lot of hiring happens. There's already a number that's stuck to it. There's already a number that says, I can't go above this. This is kind of what I need. And a lot of times I have to go in and say, it's not going to match up, right? So I'm consulting them to give them the opportunity to understand in the market, this is the skill that you get to do the projects that you want for the amount of money you're looking to pay. And sometimes I get the buy-in right away. Sometimes it takes some education for them to spend time on interviews, spend time on reviewing resumes. And then finally I say, are you ready to listen? Are we ready to do it the right way? Because interviewing all those people, looking at all those resumes, HR involved, taking people out of their J jobs, that's all time and money.
Yes,
time
for sure.
And resources, right? By the time you spend 6 months on trying to fill an opportunity that you're never going to fill, one, because the skill set doesn't align with the salary, or you've got 4 people, a position that 4 people could do in one role, like it's just not realistic. You're never going to fill it. Yeah. So now you just spent 6 months in your time, your team's time, human resources, and you probably spent $30,000 just in reviewing resumes, and just going nowhere. And then I get a lot of clients like that are frustrated. They get to the point and they're burnt out. They're tired. They need this help. They need this, and we get to the point and say to them, this is all you're going to get, in the sense, not all you're going to get, but this is realistic.
Yes.
And this is why, right? Yeah. This skill set is what you're going to get for the projects you need. So starting from the beginning is always ideal. Building the solution to say, what is the number one project you need to complete? 2, do you have someone on the team that can help and develop? Because giving opportunity to professionals that maybe don't have all the experience you're looking for is retention. Giving people the chance to learn and grow and develop a career in their mindset, increase compensation, increase responsibility, that is retention. That's how you retain your staff in a way, right? So all of that is educated every time I go in and speak with somebody. The CISOs always are the ones they know they've been doing it. I don't really have to educate them so much. I just have to educate them on how to go back to their business.
Yeah. Now, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I wanted to sort of, that's all really, really good stuff. I wanted to move from that a little bit to the sort of back and forth of a job listing now, because, okay, so I guess what I was going to say was that first, it sounds like CyberSN does a lot more in terms of not just right person for the right role, but you're really like going in and making recommendations about how to change the nature of this company's relationship to its security team. Like you're saying, like, these 4 roles need 4 employees, or, at the very least 2 and not 1, and stuff like that. Yes. So,
Yes.
Which I don't think is a standard recruiter thing. They see, oh, here comes an impossible position to fill, and we're just going to roll up our sleeves and figure out how to do it. But I think that's going to have to be part of it in the future. Is there's going to be a lot of conversations saying, like, yeah, this thing you need, you can't get out of one person, or you can't get out of, you can't find a leadership person who's going to put in 4 people's worth of work for, mid-level salary or any number of other things. And also, I mean, when you, that's another thing that pinged with me was the idea that, like, a lot of times if you have this overworked department, then you put someone new in this new untested position, and then everyone else is so busy, they're just left to sort of paddle for themselves. And like you said, that's a terrible retention strategy, because if you feel like completely on a desert island and no way to sort of like improve or get better at your job or feel good about what you're doing in your job, then it's time to, go elsewhere, I suppose.
I know. And imagine how much untapped talent you have within your own team. And that's something that we're looking into, right? Like, that's a big piece of CyberSN. And yes, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Like, I definitely don't ever view us as just a staffing company.
Mm-hmm.
We're a staffing company that's built a solution to solve this in the cybersecurity community. The platform has definitely taken my career to the next level in educating me on projects and technologies that go within specific roles and functional areas. I mean, it's a great resource for human resources to go to and actually be able to evaluate and start to learn what's happening, right, in our industry. In addition to that, it's like the whole gap of what's on a job description, what's out there, and working with individuals. It all starts with, like, making sure that they have clean content, looking at their internal team to say, who can I use? And that's why we go back to them to say, let's reevaluate all. Let's build a consultative solution around, do you need a contractor right now? Do you need a full-time person? Can we start a contractor maybe this year, convert them to perm, because that's how your budget's working, right? What are the projects you have coming up? Where are the requirements that you need to get done within the next 6 months? When's your audits due? These are questions that ultimately are going to get us to the point where it's like the when, how, and why. And then helping to support them to say, listen, their hands are tied with their budget. Once you sign that budget for the year, that's what they got, right? And we all know that. So what my job is to take what they have and try to give them the most out of what we can. And that whole solution is done with either hiring, like I said, contractors full-time, looking at their job descriptions, making sure that they're relevant, they're realistic, and then back to the business to say, what else do you have on your team, right? This whole retention service that we're looking at is based off of, like, okay, you don't have room for headcount? Great. Well, let's try to see what we can take within your team, restructure it, add to it, move it around, understand what people want to do, right? Understand what's making them happy, what makes them excited, what their passions are. Understand what's making them upset. Right? Get ahead of it. Everybody is so afraid to get ahead of, like, the red flags or the concerns, when if you just kind of open that door, you're like, wow, I created a solution where my team is now going to be happy. And so that's something that I've noticed since COVID hit and whatever. We've done a lot more of, like, our retention or RAS service, retention as a service. And a lot of big companies have come to us to say, hey, what can we do? And we've actually moved and helped support people in moving into leadership roles where now they do have the budget to enter somebody into a position on the back end and move things. I mean, it's been a phenomenal solution for so many companies. So again, removing that entire, like, we're a staffing company, like, no, it's definitely, we're advocates, we're solution-based, we're coaches. We definitely focus on training ourselves because it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And so I can't just pick up the phone and talk to a candidate. Like, it doesn't work that way. I have to know their history, their background, technologies, what's going on, what's emerging, what's not. And then we go from there.
Now, going from there, let's imagine a sort of a utopian scenario here where you've figured out, okay, we've hammered out all the issues with the job description. We're no longer asking for 5 years in AI security. We're no longer asking for things that are unreasonable and stuff like that. Do you have any particular strategies in terms of the language or the way that you use the job description to, in the other direction, to attract more or different people? Because again, your organization and our organization are very committed to diversity and inclusion and more women in the industry, and a lot of that comes down to unfortunately the stats about who will and will not apply for a job if they feel they only have some of the qualifications and things like that, and that there's that sort of concern around there. Is that something else that you work with in terms of crafting of the language and the accessibility of it to say, yes, this is an executive position, but you who are not in management, you could also do this, and here's how, here's what we really need from you, kind of thing.
Absolutely. We've done that by the platform we've developed. So our platform not only removes all bias. When a security professional is looking for an opportunity, your question areas that we've created are built off of taxonomy that aligns with NICE and NIST. Those question in common language, that taxonomy is focused around functional areas, percentage of time in those functional areas, and then tasks and projects. So you've got a title, your salary, your location, and then your specific skill set down to the projects and tasks you're working on. We remove all bias. You can definitely put on certification information, but school system, like education's not on there other than you have a degree. There's no names, titles, any of that stuff, companies, this, that. So it's truly judging people on their merits. Okay. And that's the same thing that hiring managers will put into it. And they're going to answer and put all of those questions. So the key piece is that you apply, but the jobs apply to the professionals, right? So once you put in and build your profile out, you're anonymous. I don't even know at CyberSN, unless you expose to yourself, to me, I don't know who your name is. Like, I don't know what gender you are. I don't know what color you are. I don't know what nationality. I know nothing. And all that I'm looking at is your specific, like, functional tasks, projects, what you do for work, and the percentage of time that you spend in what area. And then the hiring managers will create the same. And what ends up happening is every week we send out jobs based off the algorithm that we've utilized that match your skill set. And then ultimately all the professionals sit back and jobs apply to them. So if we're sending you a job that based on our algorithm and the data that you've entered into our system, and we send you that job, that means we feel you're a match. Technology is saying you're a match. So apply, which I feel has removed that inability for people to go and like hit the apply button, or like the issue we're having right now that jobs get posted, right? Hiring managers are even posting their own jobs, which is unheard of just because it's been such a challenge to find the right fits. So we're seeing these jobs posted and in 24 hours, 100, 200, 500 applicants. How is there any way to realistically even get through that, right?
Yeah, right.
So you don't truly know who's a match because it's so easy to click that apply button on LinkedIn. Right? Are we a match or not? So these professionals on our platform sit back and say, here's an opportunity that came in. this looks great, but this system that I'm utilizing thinks it's a match for me. So that's why it's being brought to my attention. And then that happens. Communication can start through the platform. Again, still all anonymous. And it just allows professionals to really search for matches, understand what's happening in the industry, and not be afraid to go for opportunities because it truly states their skill set match for it.
Yeah. Okay, so moving in that direction away from team builders and hiring managers and so forth, do you have any tips or advice for up and coming people in the industry, who want to get into the cybersecurity industry to make themselves stand out in that way? Obviously, in this case, you either have the skills or you don't, but also if you're just getting into it for the first time, do you have any thoughts on ways to make a very limited job history or straight out of college or whatever stand out over the other, as you say, hundreds of potential candidates?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, entry level is a whole different. This hundreds of other candidates is for senior people.
Right.
Yeah. I wasn't even June.
Yeah.
That's a completely different, avenue. The best thing that I can say for that is find yourself a mentor. Find yourself a leader in the industry. Many of them are out there offering their support and advice. Tag on to something. Make a great following on LinkedIn. Listen, podcasts, research, reading, get to know your community, go to local events. That security professionals love our events, right? We love to get together because we're constantly needing to educate ourselves. We're constantly need to keep up with certifications, keep up with this, keep up with that. So we like to enjoy ourselves and get together. Join those conferences. A lot of students get to go for free. Right? There's a lot of places where students get to join, ask questions, but also take advantage of different, I guess, co-ops, right? Internships. I know everyone wants to get out of college and be paid, and I respect that. The biggest thing is to gain as much experience as you possibly can.
Yeah. An experience that you can write down and show.
Exactly. Yeah. Getting on those co-ops, trying for those internships, right? Reaching out to the Amazons and the Apples and the big companies because they have a great, program to offer for usually individuals like that. But my biggest thing is what I've seen work is getting out there, getting mentorship, building relationships in your community, being a part of your community, having something tangible, projects, stuff at your home, getting different labs set up, just having something tangible to show somebody, right? And not just say, I have a degree in this. It's here's projects and work that I've actually done, or here's where I've actually developed or been a part of. Yeah. Join into a lot of not-for-profits. There's a lot of awareness for diversity and inclusion, women, underrepresented cultures. There's so many different areas for you to grasp. So my biggest piece is get into your community.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, I had a whole set of questions around dwindling budgets and the sort of general. But at this point, I think we might have to make that a part two somewhere down the line because we're coming up on time, and this has been a great conversation, and I want to keep the ball rolling or the train rolling into the station here. So I'm going to just jump right to asking you about looking at the coming year, since this is going to be dropping probably first week of January, give or take. Where do you see some of these issues you're talking about going in 2024 and beyond, barring additional unplanned for catastrophes? What do you see in terms of industry-wide snapbacks for budgets or investment, or, as you say, reworking of security, profiles and job roles and things like that? What's the future look like to you, Adrianna?
I definitely do see the future being let's, utilize as much as we have, right? You see that mindset being there. I do see companies being more cautious in keeping their teams slim, right? As we've known over the last few years, funding goes out, startups, and then they grow rapidly, really fast, and they do phenomenal work. But what ends up happening is that they can't, kind of get through an economic decline, right? That's unexpected.
Yeah.
So what we're going to start seeing is definitely companies that are just a little bit more cautious. And, the other thing is I definitely see, investors going out and putting their money into startups that are, going to take off. But I feel like it's going to be in a slower, more strategic way. However, let's be honest, people want to still invest their money. People want to go out and make money. People want to be out there. There still is technology that needs to be developed. There still is security products. Like, I do think that a lot of companies are going to combine, where, we might not have like as many endpoint detection companies or managed service providers, they might be, consolidated. However, it depends on the trends of, technology, and AI is huge. So AI security is there. There's new trends, new technologies happening. So with that, there's going to need to be security with that. Right. There's new regulations now from the government, like every breach has to be exposed. Right. But here's the mindset of companies now, too. I'm seeing everyone knows they're going to be breached at one point or the next. It's not a big deal anymore. Right. And what's happening is data is being stolen and collected. But let's be honest, all our data is out there anyways. So what data are they getting is what matters. What I'm starting to see is more companies being, fearful of being hijacked, right? Like ransomwares and being completely just shut down, inoperable. Like, hey, you're not making any money. You're not functioning at all until you pay us.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a sense of warfare. Like that's kind of like that cyber warfare and how people have talked about that. I foresee more of that happening. And I feel like more of that may happen because of what's happening within the world, right? The wars and the areas that these wars are happening in are large footprints for cybersecurity.
Yes, for sure.
And technology and, talented professionals, wherever they stand, right? Wherever they sit, the countries that are being affected right now are huge players. And I just feel like, we're gonna start seeing something happening, whether it be stuff coming back to the US, a lot more people need to be placed for work to support their other better halves and what they maybe have to do. But in addition to that, I do see it's a year of election, which we know, like the world starts to just kind of move again. It's so unrealistic because so much has been going on. I do see it getting better, though. I do see people posting more about starting new positions than being released. So that for a while, all I was seeing was laid off. Now I'm starting to see started a new position, which I think is phenomenal. And so I'm seeing the trend start, and I'm seeing it start slowly, but it's there. And I'm seeing the strong product companies and the strong technology companies or any services that are valuing cybersecurity or have the budget for it. They are starting to reach out and look for that strong talent again. Our platform right now, you can post jobs for free on it. You can find and apply for jobs for free, always for professionals, but companies can go and post their job on there, build a job description for free, post their job for free, get applicants for free. Because we know that it's such a tough market and we don't want to stand in the way for people going to work, right? It's like our industry is not going to go anywhere if we don't all step in and make the change. So that's exactly what CyberSN is here to do, is like not just utilize all of this to make money. Of course, it's great building, developing, growing. We're all here to make a living, but we're also passionate about just giving back to everybody in our community and making sure everyone has success.
I'm just encouraged to hear that you think that people are learning from the mistakes of the last couple of years in terms of like taking, being more conservative with like, incoming, money and not just like going for endless growth and arrow goes up and all that kind of thing. That's wild because that's not been my experience. So.
Yeah, but I feel like that's going to be more based on the investors, more based on the boards, right? I feel like there's going to be constraints, right? In the sense of how fast they grow, what they're doing with their growth, projects. I foresee, and in all the discussions I've had, there's going to be people wanting to invest and make money. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to start soon. And I just think people are going to be a little slower with it for a while and, more realistic, because there's just been so much turmoil.
All right. Well, one final question here. You talked a little bit about CyberSN and your platform, but give our listeners the full spiel if you like, and tell us where they can find out more about CyberSN and yourself, Adrianna.
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Adrianna Iadarola. I'm also at Adrianna_recruit on Twitter.
Okay.
You can find all of my information on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. In regards to CyberSN, we are definitely where talent meets its match. So we are connecting security professionals to jobs that fit based off a platform that we've created, built off the taxonomy, aligning with NICE and NIST. This question sets these common languages, removing bias, supporting anyone and everyone in the industry to find one another is our goal and our drive, as well as making sure to support, diversity, inclusion, helping organizations to understand we offer contractors, we offer full-time placements. The best pieces too is our retention as a service, utilizing the team you do have now, making sure that they stay with you. That is the biggest piece of the puzzle that we've worked on this year, is like, how do we get the most out of what we already have if we're constrained on budget and increase? Right. And then in addition, we also started a service for human resources. Utilize us just for our relationships, meaning we send you qualified and interested candidates. You and your team take it from there. We don't stand in the way. We're not trying to get through the process. Just utilize us for our relationships. And that's our matching service. All of that you can find on cybersn.com, as well as our not-for-profit, which is Secure Diversity, anything for growth and awareness for women in cyber security. I would say inclusion, diversity, all of that is on securediversity.org, also founded by Deidre Diamond.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and continuing this conversation, Adrian. I really enjoyed it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Chrissy. I appreciate it.
And thank you to all of our CyberWork listeners and video viewers, whether this is your first episode or you've been with us since the beginning. We are so happy to have you along for the journey. And since it's coming out in January, Happy New Year. Hope everything is off to a good start. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover or guests you'd like to see on the show, always feel free to drop them in the comments below or LinkedIn me. So before I let you go, I want you to remember to visit infosecinstitute.com/free to get a whole bunch of free and exclusive stuff for CyberWork listeners. We have our security awareness training series, Work Bites, which is just awesome. Please watch the trailer. It's a hoot. It's also the place to go for your free cybersecurity talent development ebook, where you'll find in-depth training plans for the 12 most common security roles, including SOC analyst, penetration tester, cloud security engineer, information risk analyst, privacy manager, secure coder, and more. One more time, that's infosecinstitute.com/free. And yes, the link is in the description below. Thank you once again to Adrianna Iadarola and CyberSN. And thank you all so much for watching and listening. And as always, we'll speak to you next week. And until then, happy learning.